So today's November 1st, and we're out in our backyard food plot, 75, maybe 80 yards long by about 35 yards wide. And we're evaluating where we are this late into the season. And what I mean by that is, on a scale of 1 to 10, I like to look at a food plot program and say, what do you think? When I ask a client that question, even myself, the lands we manage, the lands we're working on, designing, what is the food this time of year? Everybody's got their rut videos out right now, rut this, rut that, and that's a big part of hunting in the whitetail world right now. But what is the one common denominator with those rut videos? Hunting between bedding and food, okay? Yes, they're looking for spots to hunt the downwood bedding areas of does, but the does bedding areas are determined by food. So today we're going to talk about food. That's what we do here at Northwoods Whitetails. We produce some of the best food plots in the country for folks. And what I'm looking at here is a 3-strip food plot. We've got 1/3 of the food plot that's planted in our clover blend plus chicory with some oats and some radishes added to it as a nurse crop. We are standing in the strip that is our fall forage, which is oats and rye, peas, red clover added to it, and radishes added to it. And then to the left of me is a strip of our Sweet Feast brassica, and the food plot is surrounded by our food plot screen. And I would say right now on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give this about a 7. Why would you give it a 7? Well, the drought affected a lot of the end results, and we had a little bit, because the brassicas, there's a slope here. You can't really see it on camera, but there's about a 6-foot slope from the top of the food plot to the bottom. Bottom gets a lot more moisture, holds a lot more moisture. We had a drought, and it didn't really stunt the brassica, but it just didn't develop as good as it normally as it could. You know, we get some of the turnip varieties in these brassicas get to be about the size of a pineapple, which is very typical of what our Sweet Feast produces. We will not have the tonnage in that strip that we're typically accustomed to, but it's still going to produce all the way into January. But our clover blend plus chicory now on the opposite end of the spectrum did extremely well. I've never seen chicory grow as fast as this particular plot did this year. Now this whole plot I'm standing in was all planted in the same day, end of July sometime. I can't remember the exact date. I'd have to look on the calendar, but it was late July. And it came along decent. We had some good rain, but it also, some of this, like I said, the brassica struggled. The food plot screen struggled immensely, but we'll do another video on that at another time. But anyway, I would give it a 7 because it's still producing quite well. There's enough food in here. We got to watch in early September the deer concentrate on oats. We've got oats on 2 out of the 3 strips. They concentrated on the oats. They were really smashing that chicory late September, early October, and now they've transitioned to the radishes. They're hitting the radishes fairly hard. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about the mid-October, probably about the 18th, somewhere in there, we had 3 or 4 hard frosts, 21, 22 degrees, and it actually killed the top part of the radishes. Now, what I mean by that, if you look at this radish, this is frost kill right here, okay? But now we still got nice bright green, very, very wet, very full of moisture. And the deer will still eat this bottom half, but they're going to ignore this top part. Now today, unfortunately for a lot of hunters here in Upper Michigan and I would imagine throughout the Midwest, it's 62 degrees today, sun shining, bright blue sky. Not really conducive to November 1st guys that are out, guys and girls that are hunting right now. I feel bad for you, I really do. But anyway, had that frost trend continued, we would probably be standing in a lot more brown leaves than we are right now. And we'll do some panoramics when I'm done here. But that's one of the things about radishes is they don't take a lot of hard frost very well. Now, it won't really affect the bulb, so to speak, the big yellow bulb that radishes produce, but it will affect the tops, which is why one of the reasons in our Sweet Feast blend we don't go heavy on the radishes, because the early season food is our fall forage, oats and rye, peas and radishes, and then as we transition to November, December, those radishes are going to be the first part of the brassica that is not really killed, but it turns brown, where most of the sweet feast stays green throughout the winter. So that's one of the things I notice. I can look around and I can see brown tops here and there, but by and large the deer are still in here eating every night. Now had this been, again, had that cold trend continued, they might have transitioned onto the brassicas.
So we're looking at the radish, red clover, and fall forage strip. Plenty of oats and radishes left for the deer in here. A little bit browning with the frost on the tops, but plenty of green forage as well as these radishes. A lot of food yet for the deer to take them into November. Plenty of green forage as well as the big tubers. You can see the destruction on the radishes has started pretty heavy. Now we're looking at the clover blend plus chicory side, and the chicory is all but gone. They've eaten that to the ground. There still is some white clover left as well as some radishes. Again, plenty of food to last all year.
So you can see even with the brown tops, we still have a lot of green forage left here for the deer. They're really enjoying these radishes right now, but like I said, things might have been different had this trend continued with the cold nights and cooler days. So, but now what we're looking at is, again, we've got a lot of oats in here. Again, we've had cold frosts, freezes, and our oats are still really green. This is one of the things, and I can come out here on a daily basis and watch where the deer concentrating, come out here the next day, what are they eating. They really like these oats. They're nipping at the rye, which is good because that'll give us some green forage later on towards the end of the hunting season. But when I say evaluate your program, this is what I mean. How did it work in the early season? Are you an early season hunter? How did the food plot work? How is it looking right now? Now we've got one of the most critical times that people, especially bow hunters, coming up. Do I have enough food? Is it attracting deer? Is it holding deer? Okay, why isn't it? Is the food all gone? Do we need to change up what we're planting? Do we have brassicas in our food plot? Are they eaten to the ground? Do we have to switch to an all cereal grain, maybe radish clover mix? Okay, instead of trying to force brassicas that just won't grow, do we have too many mouths to feed? Maybe just the opposite end of the spectrum. We don't have enough deer in here. Why do we not have deer in here? We answer all those questions on a daily basis. We talk to people. I think this year alone we designed over probably close to 300 food plot programs all across the country. We did, I think one day we almost did 20. So we work with people all across the country. That's one of the first things I've asked. We talked to 2 people today. And my question was, how's it doing right now? What's growing in your food plot right now? I'm about 2 miles from the Wisconsin border. They have a completely different archery season start date than we do. They start very early September. So a lot of the people I've talked to in Wisconsin, we end up putting part of their food plot, if it's large enough, into clover. Why is that? Well, if you're planting late July, early August, you might not have time, if you've got an early archery season, to develop the attraction to that food plot. If you're just doing some grains and some brassicas, I like that early season attraction that the clover, chicory, and the oats offer. So, we've all heard of that summer food. Sometimes I think it's nonsense. Sometimes I think there's merit to it. It all depends on, to me, when you're planting, what you're planting, when does your archery season start if you're a bow hunter. If you've got that early September start date, you certainly don't want to be planting mid to early August. You need to have food there. If you're archery hunting in early September, you need to have some sort of attraction, so we use clover. That's just what we do. We've watched that for many years, and that clover chicory, there's no chicory left in that chicory clover strip. They've eaten it all to the ground. I mean, the chicory got 6-8 inches. If you watch back on one of our videos, we were talking about it. That chicory got 6, 8, 10 inches tall. It's gone. They've eaten it all. So that's great. So now they've transitioned to now the second strip of oats, radishes. There's red clover. I can see that they've got nipped to the ground. And eventually, when the cold weather returns, they're going to transition to the brassicas. Now, this particular strip system might not work where you're at, but that's where the evaluation comes in with us. We can, what kind of equipment are you using? What kind of situation are you in? Ag, or is it big woods? How big's the food plot? What are your goals? When are you hunting? And that kind of thing. So feel free to reach out, get a hold of us through Instagram, Facebook, Facebook Messenger. You can email us, you can text me, call me. As long as we're not in a tree stand right now, we're usually going to answer right away. But anyway, like I said, now is a great time to evaluate your food plot program. How does it look? Can it be better? Are you happy with it? You know, maybe you've got too much food, if there's such a thing. If you're carrying too much food into the spring, do we need to add a little bit earlier season food? Do we need to add later season food? But we're kind of at, or we're not quite at halftime yet, so to speak, but we're getting awfully close. So now's a really good time to evaluate your food plot program. And if you think you need to make an adjustment, you can absolutely reach out to us here at Northwoods Whitetails, and we're more than happy to take care of that.